Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to talk about the benefits of moving abroad. Now, as you know, I've been living abroad here in the beautiful country of Poland for 4 years, and I have found that it has done so many positive things for my life, and I think it'll do the exact same for you. So let's get started. So I'm going to break this video into two parts. I'm going to go over some obvious reasons or the obvious benefits of moving abroad, and I'm going to go over some not so obvious reasons. So let's start with obvious reason number one. Now, one of the major and big factors of moving abroad is the ability to learn a second language or to learn a variant of your mother tongue. So for instance, I live in Poland, so I have the opportunity to learn Polish. However, if let's say I moved over to Australia or the UK, I would have the opportunity to learn a different variant of English. The second obvious benefit is the opportunity to learn about another culture, which would involve specific traditions, foods, customs, holidays, etc., etc., etc. So when you move abroad, you have the opportunity to immerse yourself into a culture firsthand. Now, the third reason, probably the most popular reason that a lot of people move abroad, is the opportunity to find work and educational experiences. Now, I work as an ESL teacher here in Poland, and I probably could have found a job in America teaching English as a second language, but because there's such a demand here in Poland, it was a lot easier for me to find a job teaching English. Also with education, I could have went back to the States to continue my education. However, Poland offers education at a fraction of the cost. So in the USA, I would have had to got a loan. It would have been difficult to balance work and studying, etc., etc., etc. However, here I'm able to pay for my education as I go. So I'm able to work during the week, go to university on the weekend, and pay the educational fee literally as I'm going through the program. Now, of course, there are several other obvious reasons that people move abroad. I was just kind of highlighting the reasons that I've kind of found in my experience living abroad. Now we're going to jump into the not so obvious reasons. There are quite a few non-obvious reasons, and so therefore I'm not going to list them kind of in a list or a hierarchy. I'm just going to mention them as they come and maybe go to a specific topic and then come back to that topic a little bit later. When you move abroad, there's a lot of challenges, and those challenges start from the time you think about moving abroad to when you actually are in your host country and throughout your duration or throughout your time in that particular country. I've been here in Poland for 4 years, as I mentioned, and there are still challenges and still things that I have to do that I wouldn't be doing if I were living back in the States. And so within my time being here, I've learned to adapt and I've learned to solve problems very quickly. There's so many challenges. Some of those challenges are just correlated with paperwork and being able to live in Poland legally. And that's a challenge. And every few years you have to update paperwork, or you have to submit this document, or you have to locate this other document. So therefore, being here allows me to really solve problems at the speed of light. Now, also in everyday life, you need to be able to solve problems because Polish is not my first language. And being here, I haven't learned as much Polish as I would have wanted. So therefore, when I'm out and about in the city, or if I'm at the grocery store, or if someone just comes up to me and asks the time or asks directions, I really have to think on my feet, and I really have to kind of pull the Polish that I know. And in some situations, if I can't assist with someone, I quickly grab someone else that can assist. So being abroad really gets you thinking on your feet and gets you kind of out of your comfort zone that you would be in otherwise at home. I found that my level of maturity has grown exponentially since I've lived here. Now, obviously, as you grow older, you grow wiser. And the older you get, typically the wiser you get. You would hope so, right? However, when you come abroad, because of all the challenges that you're faced, you have to really start to pull on to all your resources. And you really have to be able to communicate with people, even though you don't know the language. So for instance, when I moved here, I didn't know any Polish, right? And I didn't know how things operate here in Poland. And so just getting a cell phone or getting my cell phone number activated was a big ordeal for me. And so I had to think to myself, I could go to the shop and I could try to do this by myself with Google Translate and maybe fail, or I can ask someone to help me. So in my case, at the school I work at, we have a secretary who is Polish, and she also speaks really good English. So therefore, I was able to use her as a resource to get that problem solved. So I feel that maturity is something that just grows and grows and grows exponentially. I also feel that this living abroad is really great for young people in the sense that for me as a middle-aged person, yeah, my maturity has grown. However, I feel that for a young person who is a young adult, that living abroad will allow you to mature in an amazing way that you probably wouldn't be able to do in your home country. Now, because you meet so many different people when you're living abroad, remember, you're not just meeting people who are locals. You're meeting people who are from other countries, especially when you work in a company such as mine. A lot of the teachers are from different countries. We have teachers from South Africa, the United Kingdom. So the United Kingdom, you have Scotland, Wales, Ireland. We have some people from the Republic of Ireland. We have teachers from all around the globe from English-speaking countries. And so therefore, when you have a group of people together from different countries, generally they maintain or they have different mentalities, different perspectives, and different personalities. And so you have to be able to look at things from a different perspective. And that's just in my particular working environment. Also, the mentality of Poland as a whole is a little bit different than the mentality as in the States. Now, I don't want to completely generalize. Typically, just like in America, people have different perspectives and ideas based on their individual personality or the community that they live in or the family that they grew up with. But for the most part, people of different nationalities sometimes pose different perspectives. And living abroad, it kind of forces you to kind of face that and be able to mingle with people with totally different perspectives than you, with a totally different mentality than you, and you have to make that work. You have to kind of find some ease in some uncomfortable situations where you may not have that issue in the States, or you may have that issue in your home country where you kind of pick and choose who you want to be around more so, and people kind of are raised in similar environments or with similar families. Now, living abroad does something a little bit more than just, allowing you to see different perspectives. It actually also does this magical thing where it kind of changes your perspective on specific issues. Now, obviously, it's not going to alter your core beliefs. You're not going to come here believing something to your core and then leave not believing it. But it's going to kind of alter your reality in a sense. For instance, in the USA, there is this big concept or big idea of white privilege. And so therefore, when I lived in the United States, I understood that concept. I kind of saw that perspective. And being African American, I thought, I don't have white privilege, so I'm limited in some ways. However, when I moved to Poland and when I started traveling around the world, I discovered that I have privilege. And I have privilege because I'm an American. And so therefore, when I come to a job or when I step into a country, there's this kind of privilege that I have over, per se, maybe a person from South Africa or maybe a person from an Asian country. So it has allowed me to kind of see privilege from a different perspective, that in different contexts and in different locations, I might have privilege over someone, and in the same breath, in a different context and in a different location, someone might have privilege over me. I found that being an African American, specifically when I was working down in Spain in the summers, that I had a lot more privilege than, say, my white counterparts. In the sense that when I went to apply for a job, and if we had the same qualifications, a lot of the preschools and a lot of the camps wanted to hire me because I was something a bit different. I'm American, I have the American accent, but I bring something a little bit different to the table. And it's a good selling point for those daycares and those summer programs. Now, one thing I've definitely appreciated about living here in Poland is that I've learned a lot about myself and a lot about humanity and other people in general. Now, just being here, you have to really kind of sometimes turn in on yourself and kind of question yourself and say, I'm here. It's a great journey. Why am I here? What am I doing here? And so it kind of forces you to kind of look in at yourself and say, hey, my family and a lot of my friends are in my home country, but I'm choosing to be here. And so in that process, you start to really, really understand yourself. You start to appreciate yourself a lot more, which I have in this journey. And you kind of start to understand yourself a lot more. You understand your likes, your wants, and your desires a lot more by living abroad, or, living in an environment where, things are not always as they would be in your home country. You also start learning a lot about other people. And this was something that was amazing and something that I enjoy about living abroad is that, a lot of times when you're in your home country, you learn about other people or you put people into specific categories based on generalizations. And being here, even though, we use generalizations to quickly solve problems, when you're living abroad, you kind of realize that you only can take that generalization to heart or to mind with a grain of salt, literally a grain of salt. And you really have to start looking at people as individuals, regardless if they're Polish, regardless if they're from the UK, regardless if they're from South Africa. You really have to look at people individually. You really have to look at their traits and what they bring to the table at an individual level. And that was something that I learned while living abroad. Now, one of the things that probably I could have put in the obvious part of this video, right? However, I felt that it deserves to be here because I don't think that, and for me, it didn't really correlate until I, had been here for maybe 2 years. And this idea is that when you are abroad, you start to build an international community. And so you start meeting people from around the world, either at your job or out and about. And you start kind of building this community that you probably wouldn't have built in your home country. So I have friends who are from all around the globe. I have a lot of American friends who I have met here while I was in Poland, or who I, had met back when I lived in the States. And then they, coincidentally moved to Europe, and we've been able to build our relationship because we're in a similar region of the world. Having an international community, it definitely kind of does shape your perspective. So there is definitely overlap with that. But it also allows you to kind of see the world as this smaller place where you really don't just identify because of nationality, but you identify because of commonality. And the commonality is that, it's not always the case that people stay in their host countries forever, that people are, want to explore and want to try something different or find another country that maybe fits better with their personality. And in that, you start to build this amazing community that you can draw on for resources. And it just gives you this different space in the world, this space where you're kind of an international, or you're a world citizen versus just a citizen in your home country. Now, in order to kind of go through these benefits or to obtain these benefits, you have to have some level of openness. Now, I can't sit here and romanticize about living abroad. It is not like this romantic, concept or idea. Obviously, you're going to run into troubles. Your every day is not going to be perfect, and you have to be willing to deal with that. And you're going to find strategies to cope with that. However, I think that overall, being abroad, being in a space that is not comfortable, that is novel, that is unfamiliar, is going to really get you out there. It's really going to get you thinking outside the box. It's really going to get you being a little bit more creative, and it's going to open your mind to people, ideas, concepts, and just generally ways of being. Again, thank you for watching, and I hope you liked this video. So go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe, and I can't wait to see you next week.